Hi, Ezio Monty 117 here, and this is going to be my first review on this channel. And you may be wondering, what game or movie are we going to review today? Well, I just played it recently, and I thought, why not? Why not do a review on it? So today we are going to review Dark Souls. Dark Souls has been considered to be one of the hardest and best video games of all time. In honor of the upcoming Dark Souls 3 DLC, why not go through the most beloved game in the franchise? I first heard of Dark Souls on a WatchMojo video. Yes, you heard me, a WatchMojo video. And I thought to myself, this game looks impossible, I'm never gonna play that. This was back in 2013 or 2014, fast forward ahead 2 years later, and I played my first ever Dark Souls game, Dark Souls 2, which I didn't like. So I decided to buy Dark Souls 1 to see if it's better than Dark Souls 2. And is it as good as people say it is? Or is it up there with Sonic 06 and Superman 64? Let's find out.
And her daughters of chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight.
The story in Dark Souls is a bit complicated since it's all told in lores, which means cinematics, in-game messages, and item descriptions. But I won't go into any huge spoilers in this review, so I will tell the basic story from scratch. I won't have time to do the lore. The opening cinematic shows a ruined world called Lordaeron being surrounded by the species, hollows, and the many boss fights you encounter in the game. The one in charge of this world's desolated state is Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. Even though he wanted Lordaeron to be safe and calm, a mistake happened while restoring the Link of Fire, and fighting a lot of knights along the way. The place became a burning hell, and it's up to you, the player, to stop Gwyn, because he was the one in charge of these actions. The thing I like most about this story is that even though I did tell you the basic story through one cutscene, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of lore in the game, and the lore in this game is amazing. And while it is pretty cryptic, once you get used to the lore, you'll be mind blown. And the overall story is very well done. It's basically a revenge and at the same time an exploration story where you'll be going around to fight each boss and make this place safe from all the bad guys within. This is a story well done a million times in, let's say, Lord of the Rings and stuff. And actually, this game reminds me a lot of Lord of the Rings. It still somehow works pretty well in a video game. So that's why I think this story is worth the credit. The gameplay is an action RPG combined with a hack and slash game. In the game, you'll be fighting a lot of enemies and fighting boss fights. While most of the boss fights are incredibly easy and predictable, there are some other boss fights which are incredibly challenging and can be very difficult to defeat, like the boss fights shown on screen right now. That's what I really like about the boss fights in the game, is that they can vary from being difficult to easy. Like, not every boss has to be as hard as a Taurus, so it's a good change of pace that they chose something easy, like the Iron Golem, which is probably some of the easiest bosses in the entire series. The combat in this game is great. It is very fluid and responsive, with some very good combat mechanics, with swords and a lot of magic spells, and everything you came to expect from an RPG title. There are multiple character types in the game, like magic type, a fire type, poison types, and melee types. The one I use the most is the melee type, because I like swinging my sword and using my shield than using magic spells. While I do use the pyromancer, I usually use my swords that I usually get throughout the game. The graphics in this game is great. It's very good for a 2011 release. The textures are most of the time detailed, the character designs are great, and also that the world just seems beautiful from a distance. While not everything with the graphics work like the textures as mentioned, it still holds up today despite the issues. Characterization and leveling up is great. You'll be using it a lot throughout the game to upgrade your vitality, attunement, strength, dexterity, intelligence, and everything else to improve your overall stats for your player, which means the more you level up, the stronger you get. You can level up while resting at bonfires. The bonfires are the checkpoints in the game. The bonfires can be pretty useful. They can be used to get your health back, which means the Estus flasks. You can also level up, which I just mentioned, repair your weapons and just lie there chilling a bit. And when an enemy is chasing you down, you can get to the bonfire and they will disappear, even though they will reappear again after you've rested at the bonfire, which is kind of like a downside, but you'll get used to it. The difficulty in this game is sort of hit and miss. Well, half the time I did find the game to be very easy, where I thought to myself, I don't really get why people say this game is very hard. But sometimes the game does get very difficult. You'll be dying a lot in this game, like a lot, to the millions of boss fights that they encounter in the game, and as well as the DLC fights. Like, man, these DLC fights are not easy. And while, like I said, the difficulty is a bit disappointing since there is some easy boss fights and the areas aren't very challenging, there is still some difficulty in there for people who are beginners to the series like me, even though I did find it a bit disappointing. And don't get me started on the atrocity that is Bed of Chaos. God, I hate that boss. The gameplay is pretty good. While not everything in it works, like the frame rate issues which happen now and then, which I've got to mention, not all the boss fights work. Like, some of them are very easy, like for example the Centipede Demon. The difficulty isn't the best because it's not very difficult. The characterization, while great, can be a bit stubborn. There is a few glitches, and sometimes the game just seems to be done in a few seconds. But other than that, I really found this gameplay to be one of the best in a video game. This game is definitely one of the best games I've ever played. I never played a game this exciting and tense before. The combat is great, the characterization is great, the RPG elements are amazing, and overall, the difficulty for the most part can be pretty challenging. Even though the game is easy at times, the frame rate issues are there. There's a few instances where there's glitches. There is still a lot of things to like in this game. And also, the areas in this game are great. One of my favorites being Sen's Fortress and the Painted World of Aramis. This is definitely one of the best, and always will be, one of the best games I've ever played. If you haven't played this game, you should. It's actually a lot better than you think it is. So, check it out.